Just over a year ago, Change Healthcare suffered a massive cyber attack. Let's take a look back at their origins and what we know now. In 2004, WebMD Corporation acquired Dakota Imaging Inc. and VIPS Inc. Dakota Imaging is a provider of automated healthcare claims processing technology and business process outsourcing services. VIPS is an information technology company that supplies decision support solutions and consulting services to government, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and commercial healthcare payers. In 2005, their name was changed to Emdion to separate these holdings from WebMD. Between 2009 and 2012, Emdion continued to make acquisitions of healthcare-focused payment service companies. In 2007, a company called Change Healthcare was established and focused on consumer-level health insurance costing tools. From 2010 to 2013, the company continued to grow and receive various rounds of private equity funding. In 2014, Change Healthcare was purchased by Emdion. In 2015, Emdion rebranded to Change Healthcare. Change Healthcare continued its acquisitions until 2021, when United Health Group's Optum Insight agreed to purchase Change Healthcare for $13 billion. This deal was delayed due to heavy regulatory scrutiny and closed in 2022. Change Healthcare serves many market segments, including physicians, clinics, hospitals, payers, pharmacies, dentists, and government services. Some estimates as old as 2015 have put the number of hospitals that use Change Healthcare at 5,000, 60,000 pharmacies, and 105,000 dentists. Currently, it is estimated that Change Healthcare handles as many as 1 of every 3 patient records in the United States. Change Healthcare breaks their products into 3 major categories: payments and revenue cycle, clinical and imaging, and patient and member engagement. Each one of these categories provide many solutions for each of the different market segments they target. One of the biggest things that Change Healthcare does is process billing claims with insurance. For example, if a doctor wrote you a new prescription, the pharmacy can submit the claim to the insurance company to see how much will be covered and how much the patient is responsible for. When Change Healthcare suffered their cyber attack in February 2024, they disconnected themselves from their customers. So in our previous example, the pharmacy is not able to process the claim to see how much the patient needs to pay for their medication. This is only a simplification of what Change Healthcare handles. In addition to handling systems for obtaining insurance approvals for medications or procedures, they also handle the payments to providers for those medications and procedures. This can be as high as 15 billion transactions per year. On February 21st, 2024, Change Healthcare became the victim of a cyber attack. This attack prevented payouts to doctors who used their platforms when Change Healthcare disconnected themselves from the rest of the network. The effects of this was felt by many patients. One of the most notable ways was at the pharmacy. Many pharmacies reported dealing with system issues and were unable to process insurance claims. For existing medications, many pharmacies billed at the last price the patient paid. They were unable to fill new prescriptions as the result of the attack. This even included prior authorization paperwork. The next day, United Health Group filed a notice with the SEC that a suspected nation-state associated cybersecurity threat actor had gained access to their IT systems. On February 29, 2024, the company confirmed that the ransomware attack was performed by the group known as ALPHV or Black Cat. On March 4th, Reuters reported on a $22 million Bitcoin payment to a cryptocurrency wallet associated with ALPHV. A cryptocurrency wallet can be thought of as similar to a bank account that holds cryptocurrency instead of your local currency. By March 18th, United Health Group had advanced payments of over $2 billion in assistance to healthcare providers. By this point in time, some of the platform's systems were restored. Black Cat is a computer ransomware family written in a computer programming language called Rust. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts the victim's personal data until a ransom is paid. It was first seen in November of 2021. It is also the name of the threat actor or actors who use it. Black Cat uses the ransomware as a service business model where the developers offer the malware for use to affiliates for a percentage of the ransom's payouts. The FBI stated that the group has links to several Russian hacking groups. This group was also associated with the MGM and Caesars cyber attacks. Caesars Entertainment paid a $15 million ransom while MGM did not. MGM shut its system down for a period of weeks until it had resolved the issue. This attack led to a $100 million impact to the company's third quarter financial performance. When it came to the Change Healthcare attack, there was a dispute between the group and its affiliates. Black Cat claimed it was shutting down and selling the source code for their products. This could also be the point where the developers performed an exit scam. An exit scam, or rug pull in this case, was a fraud by the group where they took the money and had no intention to split it with the affiliates. On December 19th, 2023, the group's website was replaced with an image. A message from the FBI claiming the Federal Bureau of Investigation seized this site as part of a coordinated law enforcement action against ALPHV Black Cat ransomware. The initial response from the company can be described as lacking at best. At the time, the American Heart Association described their temporary funding assistance program to be not even a band-aid. They also criticized citing its onerous terms and conditions, including Optum's ability to recover the funds immediately and without prior notification, and the ability to change the agreement simply by providing notice. In my follow-up video on the attack in March 2024, some of the news at the time highlighted several issues with their response as well as potential pitfalls. From that video, I pulled the following excerpt. Pharmacies were the first ones to feel the effects of this attack, and now we are seeing it and how it affects providers. If payments do not begin to reach providers, they run the risk of running out of money to provide services and remain open. In the case of the urgent care chain in Ohio, they currently have $650,000 in unpaid claims. They are now prioritizing which expenses get paid first and have worked to secure lines of credit along with personal savings to cover the salaries for the next 2 months. This is not an isolated example. As this attack remains unresolved, the larger the affected providers become. This can also affect individual providers such as single physician practices and therapists. There are several examples of Optum's loan program to help providers falling short. For example, the New York Times article spoke with a provider who submits $4,000 in claims and was offered a $20 per week loan. A primary care practice in Pennsylvania was offered a loan of $4,000 compared to the $500,000 of claims per month the practice submits. In mid-April 2024, CNBC reported that UnitedHealth had advanced more than $6 billion to healthcare providers in need of assistance. In total, $8.5 billion in loans were given. By October, around $3.2 billion of these payments had been paid back to UnitedHealth. Overall scale of this cyber attack can sometimes be hard to grasp. As of December 2024, Change Healthcare was still informing providers that their patients had been affected. Change Healthcare informed the Office of Civil Rights, part of the Department of Health and Human Services, that at least 100 million patients were affected. In a recent update in January 2025, UnitedHealth Group confirmed approximately 190 million individuals were affected by this attack. That's more than 50% of the approximately 334 million people in the United States. They also have stated they have not identified any misuse of the data. UnitedHealth Group has confirmed that the attackers gained access to the network using compromised credentials for a Citrix server that did not have multi-factor authentication enabled. This goes to show the lack of protection Change Healthcare truly had. On January 14, 2025, Change Healthcare issued an update stating the review of the impacted data is substantially complete. While Change Healthcare has been issuing updates on the cyber attack, individuals affected by the Change Healthcare data breach may struggle to find the notification letter online as it has been set to no index by Change Healthcare. This means search engines such as Google are instructed to ignore the notice so it will not appear in search results. There does not seem to be an apparent reason for this decision. December 2024, Nebraska Attorney General Mike Hilgers became the first Attorney General to sue Change Healthcare over the attack. Hilgers stated, healthcare providers, including critical access hospitals in rural areas, have unfairly been forced to absorb financial pain, forcing major cash flow issues, and in some cases, delayed services. And to make matters worse, Change has woefully disregarded the duty to provide notice to Nebraskans, depriving them of a fighting chance to be prepared for possible scams and fraud. We're filing the suit to hold Change accountable. In the suit, there is a focus on the lack of protections and basic cybersecurity failures on the part of Change Healthcare and its parent companies. It is also noted that the intrusion was not detected for 9 days in an underwhelming response such as mailing out notices 5 months after the attack. Overall, there were more than 4 dozen lawsuits filed against Change Healthcare. These have since been consolidated by a federal judicial panel on multi-district litigation in the United States District Court of the District of Minnesota. Attorneys for Change Healthcare and UnitedHealth Group tried to get the case consolidated in the District of Tennessee, where their headquarters are. As of January 2025, settlement talks are set to begin soon. The Office of Civil Rights is currently investigating the breach to see how compliant Change Healthcare was with HIPAA rules. The results of this are not known. This may be where you are thinking that they will face massive fines like Anthem did after their 2015 breach, where they paid $16 million in fines. Fortunately, there was a 2019 reinterpretation of the language in the High Tech Act, or the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act of 2009. This new interpretation sets the annual maximum penalty to $1.5 million in the case of willful neglect with no corrective action. This is the worst case set of culpability with a high number of violations. What does this say? Does this set a precedent that the healthcare companies can get away without fines? How negligent was Change Healthcare for the cyber attack? When looking into all these questions, it is important to remember how this attack occurred. The initial server this attack stemmed from did not have multi-factor authentication on it. Think of when you try to log into an account and get a text code, log in to prove it's you. United Health Group has confirmed in testimony to the Senate Finance Committee, as well as conversations with Chair Ron Wyden, that they did have third-party auditors to review Change Healthcare's infrastructure. Additional questions were asked around if recommended actions had been implemented and if the ransomware technique used was identified in the audits as well. Even without government fines, Change Healthcare is facing another consequence to their total earnings. According to United Health Group's earning reports last year, the amount the cyber attack has cost them continues to go up. In Q1, the estimated cost was $1.6 billion, which increased to $2.3 billion in Q2. By Q3, the cost had risen to $2.5 billion in impacts and $1.5 billion in direct response costs. Unfortunately, even with these costs, they have increased their earnings by almost 60 cents per share year to year. According to the Q4 earnings reports, Optum Insight revenues were $18.8 billion. This is only 1% down from the previous year due to the cyber attack. Business disruptions were $867 million. United Healthcare can absorb a 1% hit here because Change Healthcare is only part of their business. In the long term, we may see a shift from companies to providers switching away from Change Healthcare. It is difficult for the companies to switch platforms, and the process cannot be done overnight. Additionally, these companies may be locked into contracts with Change Healthcare for a length of time. We may see a gradual decline in the segment as these contracts expire. One of the key takeaways from this is that despite massively affecting the entire medical industry, countless providers, you, the patients, and your protected health information, is that this may end up being a bump in the road for United Health Group. United Health is currently in the process of acquiring Amedisys, a home health and hospice provider. This deal is currently being blocked by a DOJ lawsuit and has been joined by Attorney Generals of Maryland, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York. United Health already owns LHC Group, which they bought in 2023 for $5.3 billion. LHC is a rival to Amedisys. According to the DOJ, this would remove competition by combining two of the biggest home health companies. The company continues to face potential antitrust investigations for its anti-competitive efforts as well as price inflation. With the new Trump administration, it is not known how these investigations and lawsuits will conclude as compared to the Biden administration under which they were started. When we look back at the Change Healthcare cyber attack, we see several things. One of the things we see with this is a large amount of monetary damage and disruptions to providers and payers. We also see the impact, or potentially lack thereof, to United Healthcare. While they have taken a 1% hit to the previous year's earnings, it may be too early to see some of the lasting impacts such as customers leaving when their contracts are up. The most important thing we can take away from this attack is that there were basic things Change Healthcare could have done to either prevent this attack or make it more difficult for the attackers. Despite the lack of security and major disruptions to the medical systems in this country, we most likely will not see United or Change Healthcare face adequate consequences for their role in this attack. This includes, but is not limited to, government fines. With the current Trump administration, it remains unclear how harsh they will be on United Healthcare for the cyber attack, as well as their attempted purchase of other providers such as Amedisys. What are some other things we need to do to correct this? Let me know in the comments. Unfortunately, while the cyber attack was covered in detail at the time, it has once again fell off most news radars. In order to help prevent future attacks, we need to increase both the security requirements for companies handling this protected information, but also increase the fines and penalties when an attack occurs, and we see a lack of adequate security. What else should be done to prevent a business-as-usual mentality when it comes to these massive cyber attacks? How does cybersecurity play into conversations around healthcare reform in America? We may not have all these answers today, but it's important to begin the conversation in order to drive change and better protect patients and their data. If there is anything you'd like to see investigated next, leave it in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.